late. Okay, sorry. Feels like my microphone moved or something. Um, Give it time to populate, because otherwise, no one's going to be able to see it. There it goes. Woo. And then click on that. I want to edit the post, and now everyone can see it. Public, done, save. All right, ready? All right. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host Keegan. And this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest, and that would be Carley Smith. And
Oh, hey.
technically, it's like Carley Smith Blankenship now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be
Congratulations.
hyphenated until if when my daughter is either older and we can talk about it so she doesn't feel left out, or until she gets married and it doesn't matter anymore.
Nice. Well, congratulations. That is very exciting news and always exciting part of life. So,
Mhm.
uh, what did you want to talk about today? Did you have anything on your mind?
Yeah, I actually do. And I also wanted to say congratulations. I saw
Oh,
your recent post for your 4 years, right?
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch base on the concept of intuitive crafting
Okay.
and what that looks like as far as kind of reprogramming some of those trauma responses that we have and
Mm-hmm.
why that's important in recovery and um, you know
Mm-hmm.
around
Okay.
that
Well,
general area.
sounds good. So for those of us that don't know what intuitive crafting is, what is intuitive crafting?
So intuitive crafting is kind of the one of the easiest forms of crafting that I've ever done, and that is you find random objects that can somehow go together. So list me off like three of your favorite things,
Like
like
anything?
material objects kind of
Oh,
stuff. Yeah.
let's see. I like rocks and crystals,
Hmm.
minerals. So there's that.
Perfect.
Um, I have a weird thing for blades.
Hmm.
Um, and man, I don't know.
Any
Uh,
colors that you
green.
prefer? Okay. So, having all of those things in mind,
Mm-hmm.
say you find a crystal sword,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny enough, I actually have a piece out in the car that is like a basket and it has a crystal sword in it with like moss and stuff and crystals on it.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
so, say you find a crystal sword and you think this is awesome, like I want to display this somehow. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not really sure how. Well, you could go through and find a piece of wood. It could
Mm-hmm.
be a live edge piece of wood, whatever you have laying around, really.
Okay.
And I know sometimes that can sound like a little intimidating, like how does that even look good together? Um, but just finding the things that you have and being resourceful in those things, it doesn't have to be a $300 piece of wood that has been polished or like electrocuted and looks really cool. It could, but for this purpose of example, we're going to use a round piece of wood that came off of something like forever ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now we want it to be like dark with like green and stuff. So I personally like to use moss because I like when my fingers turn green. It makes me feel like a goblin. um, and just kind of like using the things that we have um, to make something beautiful out of like kind of the crusty little feelings that we have sometimes about things that happen to us in life or things that we're having to like re-experience, especially if you're going through recovery and you have something like PTSD or
Mm-hmm.
some kind of just like hangouts that kind of get you in kind of a slump. And it's just something that you can look at to like brighten your day. Um, so yeah, that's kind of like the example. You get your piece of wood, you drill some holes in it, you put some like glue down and like twist your wire and like just like the nicest way and put your blade on there and twist everything up, add any extra crystals or anything, and just figure a way to like hang it up or whatever. It's just
Huh.
finding some of your favorite things that brighten your day, and remind you that you can still have a silly good time and even make like little gifts for people or hide them around town. Like there's a lot of different possibilities. Me
Mhm.
personally, I started a business and I go to like vendor events and I sell things, and just seeing people light up. Like yesterday, I had this girl come in and she was like, "Ooh, that one, yes, perfect." And she just started handing stuff to me, and I was just like, "Ah, somebody likes my stuff this much."
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's also a really good way to connect
Mhm.
through like-minded individuals. And
Mhm.
'cause my stuff for sure isn't for everybody, but that's
Mhm.
okay. And your stuff might not be for everybody, but that's okay.
Yep. Yep, that's exactly true.
Mhm.
Um, so what got you into intuitive crafting?
So art has always been a really important part of my life,
Mhm.
um, especially after coming out of like my 3 year addiction
Uh.
and being able to reclaim some of that time for myself and really
Mhm.
investing into myself.
Mhm.
Um, and it's always been like, even before those 3 years, it has always been just this little moment to myself to express something for myself. It's like little love notes that my soul sends to my body, and it's just like, hey, print this. And I'm just like, do you mean like this? And like, and it's frustrating sometimes because sometimes it doesn't come out how I want it,
Mhm.
but it's like the thought that counts on those things. And I really appreciate that, like, wherever those ideas come from, I appreciate that source so much.
Mhm.
Just being able to let my eyes kind of see something, like, especially in my third eye, being
Mhm.
able to see something that doesn't exist and being able to bring it into existence. Oh, one of the most satisfying things.
Oh yeah. Uh, I mean, I kind of can relate to that, but not necessarily in super artistic ways. But at the same time, I totally get what you're saying because taking something that is an idea, something that's ethereal, and manifesting it through your own hands
Mhm.
is definitely something that is surreal. Because I mean, it's kind of like you get to experience what it's like to create, uh,
Mhm.
and that's just it's really really cool. And I think that that's one of the things that I miss about being like that childlike wonder with
Mhm.
everything was just like I get to create all this stuff like sandcastles and like forts out in the woods and things like that. But being an adult, we can't
Mhm.
really do that, so it's kind of just
Well,
like.
I mean, honestly, if you look around your room, you have
Hmm.
created this space that is like using the things that you have and that are sentimental to you. That is a form of creative or intuitive crafting,
Oh
is
well.
being able to create a space that is like, it doesn't matter the scale. It doesn't matter if it's your outfit, your the way that you style your beard, or like, whatever. It is always different for everybody. And once
Hmm.
you find that little niche of like, I really enjoy doing this and it brings me so much joy, um, and like so much comfort or whatever good feelings that you're having.
Hmm.
Um, but then we have to kind of stop and think, okay, am I doing this to kind of replace those really good high up feelings, those
Hmm.
elevated feelings? Um, and like kind of put my attention to this, or am I doing this because I'm turning those things into, or those
Mm.
feelings of turmoil that I was feeling before that caused me to like try and find some sort of escape? Am I doing the escape thing again?
Mm-hmm.
um and that's, I kind of think, where meditation comes in.
Okay.
So
So meditation, like I'm familiar with it. I've done it since I was a wee lad. But a lot of people think that it's something that's unachievable. That it's only something that the
mhm,
yogis up in the mountains do or the monks, and it's not really the case. I mean, people meditate all the time and don't even know it. Really,
mhm,
if I'm to be honest, in my understanding of it. But the thing is there's different types of meditation. So whenever it comes to meditation and art, in all this intuitive crafting, how does it come into play for you in that regard?
well, I will say first off, it does help me realize when I'm using my crafting as a crutch and like a form of
Mm.
escapism. Because, like, too much of the one thing is not, too much of a good thing isn't a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and kind of, especially because I have a family and I have to like kind of put my energy over there as well. I really have to divide like my four quadrants of my life, which
Mm-hmm.
is, my home life, my loved ones, my business, and like my crafting.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to keep that balance. And when I'm not keeping that balance, my body tells me.
Ah.
So for me, when I'm laying there on the couch, because literally I have to just lay there and see what, like, where my attention goes on my body and where my
Mm-hmm.
attention goes in those quadrants of my life, just kind of sitting there observing my thoughts. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It is so hard for me to sit and do nothing. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'll typically put something in the oven, wait for that to heat up, and once I get that in the oven, I'll go lay on my couch and try and ignore all the sounds around me just so that I can listen. And I have my phone on my chest and I'll type in whatever I'm thinking about. And it's really helped me find some really good journal prompts, some really good ideas for like future crafting endeavors. And it just kind of like helps me keep myself in one spot as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to trying to be in all four quadrants at one time,
Ah.
basically. So that makes
Okay.
sense. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. So meditation is you're using it as a form of check and balances almost.
Hmm.
Uh, and in doing so, it actually opens up more avenues as well. Uh,
Hmm.
and meditation, I know for me, does it's weird because it quiets the mind and it also directs it at the same time. But like I said, there's different
Hmm.
forms of meditation, and so it's really interesting to see that meditation can be used for different things because most people think meditation it's only for say trying to get spiritual awakening or say they're using it to combat a mental illness or something, but it really is just all encompassing to a whole bunch of stuff. uh, but with intuitive crafting, what is one of the things that you've made that you're really proud of at the moment? Like, what was your
Hmm.
what was the one that you still have and is like the highest on the wall?
So actually, literally, it's on my wall right now. Well, there's a couple of them, and I like to work with bones
Mm.
because, but I don't know. I like fur and I like bones, but if they're mixed together and they're dead, I don't like it. But I have actually a longhorn skull on my
Oh,
wall that
nice.
I have put like lace across the face and like
Mm.
crystals and moss all over. And I really like, I adore this piece and I really don't want to sell it. So I have it like for like $500.
Oh man.
And I'm just like, you want to buy it? That's fine. It gives me enough to pay up to 250 for another skull and
Mm.
everything. I had a man walk up to me yesterday,
Oh no. Oh no.
and he walks up like on his crutches, and it's just like obviously like recovering from some kind of surgery, and like walks up and he looks at it like this, and he's like, "Well, that's almost cute." And I was just like, "Okay."
Oh
Anyway, and he
no.
was like, "How much are you asking for one of them? I have one of them up above my mantle." And I was like, "That one's 500." And he said, "You're out of line." And I was just like, "I don't care."
What?
Like, yeah, it was an encounter for sure.
Huh.
But um, having said that, I like it on my wall. I have a
Hmm.
really deep forest green wall in my living room, and I love it.
Ooh.
Do you want to see it?
Yeah. That'd
We
be
might have
awesome.
to face my kiddo, but and I also have a deer headpiece and some deer antlers.
Ooh. That's pretty.
And then I have this one.
Huh. That is really cool.
But
Huh.
yeah, it's just I really enjoy moss. I also made this one.
Ooh.
It's just like a little something to hang over as like an offering bowl.
Mm-hmm. Huh. That's cool. I like that.
So
It's like a little
I
shelf for fairies.
yes, and it's just I don't know. I don't know what it is about moss, but me and her get along real good.
So does that moss that you have on those stay alive, or do you just like have to spray it with water
It
here and
is
there?
preserved.
Ah.
Um, but I will say if you put it in heat, it hardens. But if you
Hmm.
have it in a nice, cool environment, it
Mm-hmm.
stays soft and squishy.
Huh.
And if you take it in a or an environment where it gets hard, if you take it back into a different environment, it softens up again.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, it's weird.
That is really cool. And I don't.
Mhm.
Well, part of me wants to assume that you don't go out and pick your own moss.
I don't.
Oh
I,
man.
I do sometimes if I see moss, I'm like, come here, you, and like, I'll take home a little specimen, um, part of the Facebook groups and stuff. But anyway, I digress.
So it sounds like intuitive crafting would be something that would be really fun to do, like, say, by yourself, right? But what if we look at it from like the family perspective or like a couple's perspective?
Oh, for sure. We have two pieces of selenite that were like a square
Mm-hmm.
and they were cut in half like this. So now it's like two long pieces.
Uh.
And I was like, oh, we're totally doing this. And so I set up the table with two different plaques for me and my husband, and
Mm-hmm.
he designed one and I designed one. And they both hang over our doors, like the front and the back door now. So
Oh wow.
it's a really nice, quick, little like together idea. My daughter and I craft together all the
Uh
time. And by together, I mean I sit with her and I help her.
huh.
But she loves it. She loves
Mm-hmm.
to be able to like make things that in a way amazes her, but I don't think she realizes that it amazes her. I think she just really likes doing it.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a good thing though. And art seems to be, well, all around us and everything that we do. And so it's important to be exposed to that and be able to create at a young age. And
Hmm.
really, what it sounds like is that with intuitive crafting, you can literally just go and make anything that suits your fancy.
Hmm.
So you want to go make some candy bracelets, you go make some candy bracelets if you're still into that.
Right? If
And a
it's
lot of
raining
people are.
outside and you
Hmm.
have a hankering for mud pies, you get out there.
Oh
It's
man.
really anything. It doesn't have to be permanent. It doesn't have
Hmm.
to be pretty. Like as long as it feels good while you're doing it, I think that's the goal.
Hmm. I think you got me going. So next time I'm just kind of out in the middle of nowhere, I'm just going to build me a little picture or something with what's around, and then just take a picture of it with my phone and just leave it as is, and see who
You
comes across
can.
later, and then maybe hear about it a few months later in the urban folklore about no.
That would be so funny. No,
So.
at one time I drew a picture of a pug and it had like a beanie and the pug's like sitting up straight like on a couch or something and like has a t-shirt and like a chain and it says pug life instead of thug life. And years after I drew that, one of my friends who's in our D&D group
Mm-hmm.
has it.
Oh
No,
wow.
I had no idea that he had it, but he has it.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh
But yeah,
so
it's pretty whimsical and kind of takes some of the seriousness off,
mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, it seems like it's just trying to get back to a more pure and innocent form of oneself,
Hmm.
right? Um, because in that sense, you're kind of letting emotions be expressed.
Hmm.
So, how do you think that expressing emotion comes about through intuitive crafting? Is it through the things you choose, and do you necessarily go for something in particular, or just kind of let your intuition literally guide you?
So I do a lot of like thrifting and
Mm-hmm.
recycling in that aspect because, I'm saving the planet while I thrift, And I find like these centerpieces,
Mm-hmm.
and it really just depends on the centerpiece that I find, or if I do a crystal order and I have a crystal that is just going to make the perfect centerpiece for something, like I'll do that. Or if I find bones, if I find like a really cool stick or something, it just really depends on like the
Mm-hmm.
materials that I have. I do think that the the feeding of the inner child is
Mm-hmm.
so important because behind all of the trauma responses that we have, um, is that inner child. It
Mm-hmm.
is like perfectly preserved and still itself, and going through and nourishing that person, because
Mm-hmm.
once we get to where we can reprogram those trauma responses, that person's going to want to come out, and we want them to be nourished and
Mm-hmm.
um like healthy, and that's kind of why I do it, is because I know that once I get through reprogramming where I want to reprogram, I want my inner child to emerge as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with the help of, all of my mental health enthusiasts in life, um, I think that it's totally possible for me to not just be a walking trauma response,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
So that brings up an excellent point. The trauma responses. You said that intuitive crafting can be used to help reprogram those. So how exactly does that occur? What does intuitive crafting uh, engage in with ourselves that creates a reprogramming feature?
I'm totally about to be very vulnerable about like my past and stuff, because
Okay.
one of the things that I've done is I grew up with a narcissist, and one of the things that's very triggering to me is yelling,
Mm.
because story happened and I got home, and because I told my counselor X, Y, and Z, he was upset with me because he got in trouble because of his own choices,
Mm-hmm.
and because it affected me so much that I was falling asleep in class. There was a whole debacle happening. And when I later on in adulthood tried to repair the relationship and repair the like hurt that I felt from that instance,
Mm-hmm.
like he told me I was lying and tried to gaslight me into like
Mm-hmm.
that could have never happened.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did, and one of my favorite intuitive craftings, is painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and painted the scene from not from the point where I was being like assaulted, like not like physically.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the other side of the room and I can see exactly what's happening in this time. So I actually painted it.
Oh wow.
And that really helped me with my own parenting, and that this did happen to me, and that it's not my fault that that happened. Like
Mm-hmm.
me being a child and an adult making a decision, did not make that my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to back myself up from the situation and realize that this did happen, this is a choice that my parent made. It was really healing at the time, and
Uh-huh.
um, it's not, I don't know if it's anything I'll ever show because it was just something for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it, I don't know, it just helped me know what my truth was, and that just because an adult made a decision does not affect my worth in any way.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I'm really sorry to hear about that, and I'm really glad though that you were able to find a way to work through it.
yeah.
And uh, that's really awesome that intuitive crafting was able to do something on that level, because childhood trauma is deep. It's very
Hmm.
deep seated, it's deep rooted. Once I try to get to mine, a lot of them don't want to go. And it's even worse whenever I have teenage self defending the childhood part. And so it's kind of like, hey, I'm trying to get past you. And he's like, no, you don't, I don't trust you yet. And it's like, come on, dude,
Hmm.
I am you. Like, I'm the older
No,
part
I
of you.
know.
Yeah. And
And
so,
it still affects me. Like, it's like if somebody still to this day starts yelling, I
hmm,
will either, and this is the trauma responses that I'm trying to get through, is if
okay.
I will either yell back,
Hmm,
or, oh, I guess three things. I'll start crying, or I will go quiet
hmm,
because I just want to take a breath
hmm.
and try and get through that, because me as a parent, I don't want to be a walking trauma response. I want to show
No.
my kid what emotional regulation is,
Hmm,
and it's so empowering. It's so empowering to be able to just be like, this sounds really hard, but we need to kind of take down the sound level just for mom. How about that? You
hmm,
know, and the instance showed me how not to be a parent, and
hmm,
I pride myself on being a functional human being, because for me true goodness is being able to regulate my emotions for the people that I love.
hmm.
So
Yeah. And I think that that's overlooked by a lot of people, because a lot of people think that it's just the thought that matters, but it's also the actions.
mhm,
Like, if, and a lot of people let their emotions guide their actions. So, for you to try to change that trauma response, from yelling back to calming back down, that's really inspiring, because you're taking it and reversing it into something constructive at the same time. It's not
mhm,
something that's going to break you down. You're using it to not just build yourself up, but build those up around you too. So that's a really good way to go about reprogramming it. And I guess that can be used for pretty much any response, really, right?
mhm.
So, um, have you had much use of intuitive crafting with, say, like your Reiki or anything like that?
Oh yes. So I actually had somebody recently reach out to me for a commission piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he told me like he's into like witchy kind of modern,
Mm-hmm.
like, but also like a little bit of like a nerd center and stuff like that. And
Mm-hmm.
I am going to be doing a piece that incorporates all of those things just intuitively. And I kind of gave him the rundown of what I like, the general idea of what I was thinking.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, this guy's going through like all of these huge major life changes that are like not necessarily positive, and
Mm-hmm.
for me to be able to use my gifts to be able to help his home
Mm-hmm.
feel like a home and feel like personalized,
Mm-hmm.
super wonderful. Love it. I'm all, and I get paid for it. Wow.
That is way too cool.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think about let's see. So you've got your intuitive crafting and reprogramming your trauma responses. So, whenever you reprogram a trauma response, how do you reinforce it? Because it's easy for it to switch back to the default, right?
Mhm.
So, what do you do to reinforce your new response, your new pattern that you're trying to establish?
So, I'm recently been listening to this book, and it's a
Hmm.
parenting book, but honestly, I recommend that everybody listen to it because it can help with any relationship.
Okay.
And I remember that I'm good inside.
Hmm.
And I recently got my aura photo done, and there's literally just a white light right here.
Hmm.
Like, and it's just like a visual representation that reminds me that I am good inside, and
Hmm.
the person that I am in all of its allness is just this person who has symptoms of hurt feelings.
Hmm.
And my behavior is like showing the symptoms of something that is hurting. So
Hmm.
whenever I approach something and I want to go back to the frustration and negative feelings and stuff, I just take a step back and I remember that I'm good inside, and just because
Hmm.
these things happen to me that were not so good, it doesn't define who I am. It doesn't
Hmm.
show, it doesn't like I don't know. I digress, but it's a beautiful book, and it's called Good Inside. And the way that this doctor has put the being able to know that there are two things that are true, and one of the things is that my dad was in active addiction
Hmm.
with what he was going through, and either doesn't remember or whatever. I know that he's good inside, and he's
Hmm.
obviously very dealing with something that I can't help him with. And
Yeah.
it is not my job to help him with. But another thing is true is my feelings were hurt, and it made me feel like I was nothing.
Hmm.
And it's hard for me to be around him nowadays because I have healed so much, and being around somebody who could potentially like try and take that from me again,
Hmm.
because I know I've changed,
Hmm.
but I don't know if he has.
Yeah.
And I love myself. I love who I've become. There are things about myself that I would like to change, but
Hmm.
that's because of I recognize that they're trauma responses, you know?
Yeah.
So, does that answer your question? I
Yeah.
kind of feel like I get a little rambly.
No, you're good. If you see a rabbit, chase it. You never know where a rabbit hole is going to lead.
Oh, I
So,
know.
but with that being said, those trauma responses, uh, man, see, there was a rabbit and it went doop. Um,
It's
uh,
under the desk.
yeah, right. Just like, where? Come here. Nope, I don't think it was under there. Anyways, so with trauma responses, whenever they get established and we have those things around it, so we have those triggers, um, do you think that possibly using a symbol of that trigger in an intuitive crafting project would help you overcome it by getting control, possibly, or something?
Okay, so the way that like visually that's represented to me is like I come up to like the divot in your brain that
Mm-hmm.
has like where your trauma has affected your brain and has like
Mm-hmm.
restructured your brain. Um, it's like I get to this point and I realize that I'm about to dip, and
Mm-hmm.
I like to use visually the things in my home. The way that I interior decorate my home is like a constant visual representation that I am in a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to make my home beautiful with the things that I make
Mm-hmm.
is like a constant like it's almost like little flags that are like lined up like, okay, we're getting kind of close. You're really close to the edge. Oh no, come on. You're really close to the edge, and it just kind of like tanks. Being able to kind of look around, visually, because my triggers are auditory. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever I can see things visually that is like, you're okay, you're in a safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like keeping my house clean is a really good way for me to like maintain, like, not deterring myself away from my negative emotions, because I want to feel my negative emotions. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be able to manufacture more emotion receptors, because the more emotion receptors I have, the happier I can feel.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the same is true for other emotions, but like I said, like I feel like it cultivates more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But once I can have my visual, like like not warnings, but like my visual reminders
Precautions.
that everything is okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like I'm in a safe space. I don't have to have those trauma responses. Nobody's gonna hurt me here. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um. So essentially, you want to cultivate well-being. You want to make it to where everything is of your making, of your choosing. And so, if you
Because
were,
it's the control that I do have. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Instead
Mm-hmm.
of kind of trying to control things like outside of me, taking care of myself within me and having like the little visual, like pleasing visual aesthetic that I like, being able to like, uh, I don't know, just that it's a safe space, you know?
Mm-hmm. So you essentially don't want reminders of something that could, well, remind you of a bad time. So.
Well, I feel like that's a little, like, sounds a little avoidant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like to avoid it because whether I want to or not with PTSD, I'm gonna go back into that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And here is where I go there, but here is where I am. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So whenever I'm thinking about some trauma responses and I want to reprogram them. Let's say one of mine is to, let's say, isolate, right? Or shut down. And like, I'm just going to go stone cold quiet, not going to talk, no nothing, because whatever I'm saying isn't being heard, right?
Mhm.
Uh, what would you do in a situation like that, uh, where someone just shuts down, like they will not do nothing? What is the reprogramming you think that would be beneficial to get them to not necessarily shut down, but I don't know. Well, what's your take on that?
So I think it depends on what this person likes.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I gotta go get in the bath. I need to put salt in my bath,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to like just get all of that uckiness off of me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have to do this also with a child, so I
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure she's okay, she's fed, she has
Mm-hmm.
what she needs for the moment, because I really need that time to kind of like make this beautiful soup that I can just like be in so that I can reset, because if I'm shutting down,
Mm-hmm.
that's a wild moment because I rarely shut down. But for a person who like is able to do what they need to when they need to,
Mm-hmm.
being able to have either auditory reminders.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you're feeling really good about life and you are so happy in that moment, and you want to leave yourself like a little like song that you sing or something on your voice like recording, making those little memos, that also I feel like could be intuitive crafting, because you're making this thing for yourself in the future
Mm-hmm.
to remind you that you are in a safe space. And just because you are having negative feelings doesn't mean that you're not good inside. So giving yourself that little bit of minute to like be like, hey, I'm having a moment, I will be right back.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do you know, go into your office or something and you have something on the wall that says like, I imagine something like ye all blah 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 and like, you know, like a piece of wood or something that is just like this too shall pass kind of thing. um and like I said, like just reminding yourself that you are good inside and
Hmm.
that just because you have these thoughts and just because your feelings got hurt, like it doesn't change that.
Hmm.
And if you can make like a little space for you to remind yourself, or if you just want to go outside and see what the earth is making, like appreciating other people and things
Hmm.
is also like a part of that, because if you're making the thing, somebody's going to be viewing
Hmm.
it. And if that can help them, honestly, it makes you feel a little good,
Hmm.
you know?
Yep.
So, but yeah, it really depends on like what you like to do. If going outside is what you like to do, go put your hands in some dirt and like, or mud. Take some water and just like make a ball and just put all of your stuff in there and just leave it there.
Yeah.
Or squish it when you're done. You know, it doesn't have to maintain its form. This
Hmm.
is such a fluid like way of dealing with things, and sometimes it doesn't fix it, but sometimes
Hmm.
it takes the foam off of the top of that really foamy like Coca-Cola, you know what I mean? Because
And
there's nothing worse than just drinking foam.
oh yeah, yeah, no, no, you got a point there. Um, and so taking off that foam, you can actually see what's kind of going on underneath, so that way you
Yes,
can
and
actually
it,
work on it.
yeah, it keeps you from covering stuff up,
Hmm.
you know, and kind of playing the avoidant game, because like I know I do that.
Yeah.
And it is something I would like to change about myself, but I can only face those things as they come. You
Hmm.
know, in that moment, putting together a ladder for yourself is like the main thing. And if you have
Hmm.
somebody around you who cares about you and loves you to bits, then you know, like me with my husband, I tell him like, hey, I am having a hard time functioning today. Something you could do to help me, because I know he loves to help me, and I'm all
Hmm.
like, I'm not gonna cry. But like, I'm like, if you could please unload the dishwasher so I can do the dishes, that would be great.
Hmm.
You know, and it's just being able to be safe around other people enough
Hmm.
to be vulnerable to let them know, like, hey, I'm having a hard time, because it's hard to be vulnerable around people. It's
Hmm.
hard to admit that you're struggling,
Hmm.
and it's hard sometimes, harder even sometimes, to like ask for help. If somebody
Oh
reaches
yeah.
out to me, they're like, I need a Reiki session today, I'm just like, let me see what I can do.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
because if they reach out to me and they're telling me this, like I take that seriously,
Hmm.
and I want to be able to do those things for people, because I have people to do those things for me,
Hmm.
and I think that everybody deserves that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna get political,
Yeah.
but
No, you don't have to do that. But
but you know, I have my exceptions. But the people that I care about and the people that reach out to me, typically
mhm.
yes.
Fair. But you did bring up a really good point that I liked. You said by observing other people's intuitive crafting or art. And that was just really cool because you brought it full circle. Because at some point, we don't necessarily always have to create, sometimes we're a part of. So, being a part of someone else's intuitive crafting or being able to observe it from that third or rather fourth hand uh, image, it kind of would also give an insight to that person. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that that's a really interesting way to look at it too, is that it lets me see someone else's perspective and kind of what they're going through. So people that go to art museums are actually doing some healing without even really knowing it, in a
Hmm.
sense, which is kind of interesting because I never really thought about it that way.
Well, here, one second.
Alrighty.
Sorry, I don't know what I did with my tissue. But no, so one time I was seeing this therapist, and he was my first ever therapist ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that one time he went to a museum and like to see somebody's art, and he could tell immediately that this person had dealt with like sexual abuse and
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of trauma. And whenever he met the artist, he asked like, what is your inspiration with this? And she said that it was her dealing with the sexual abuse that she had gone through. It's like he could just see it
Wow,
going into it.
that's
So
crazy.
I don't know. I totally want to show you my painting now.
Go for it.
But let me see. I just moved, so everything is like all
All
right
over.
here. But yeah, I just, and it's so dramatic and like
Oh wow.
everything, but it's just like everything that was going on, I just kind of let myself be
Mm.
emotionally vulnerable with myself and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like reminding myself like, no, this happened
Mm-hmm.
and I would like it if, you know, this person would like have this conversation with me, because like, but it's so it like it's such a complicated thing because he makes it so complicated, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, well, this is how I'm going to deal with this on my end, because like no matter what happened, like I still have love for this person, but like being around them isn't loving myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of, it's, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
putting those things there and just being able to visually see that reminder reminds me that I can't be gaslit, and I everything that I have been through is valid, and
Mm-hmm.
the feelings that I feel about it are valid, and just kind of being able to see that in other people's art is, it's like exhilarating. It's being able to experience in a bipartisan kind of way. I don't know if I'm using that word right, but that's what's coming to mind. um, but being able to like see that, I guess like, I guess by proxy is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking of, but is exhilarating, and it makes me feel love for that person
Mm-hmm.
or disgust or, you know, whatever, like whatever feelings come up, being able
Mm-hmm.
to see what they went through and what they're making of it, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, thank you for sharing that painting with us, because I know that that couldn't have been easy, and I mean that's got to be kind of
As of
liberating at the
this
same.
moment, yeah, yeah, that's all I feel right now, because I don't think anybody, I think besides my husband and maybe my mother-in-law when I moved, have
Mm-hmm.
seen it. So um I don't know.
Yeah, really liberating. Like, look, like this is what I've been through, and it's not going to
Yeah,
hold power over me anymore. So,
yeah. I mean, I kind of want to burn it in a bonfire a little bit, just as
ooh,
a little
good little
ritual.
little good energetic release.
Yeah.
uh, Maybe cord cutting is in place. Who
Oh,
knows?
it's already been done.
Oh, there you go. Never
That
mind.
has been
Never,
done.
never mind. You're way ahead of me. um, but what kind of projects do you have for yourself in intuitive crafting in the future? Like, just some of the ideas that you got floating around that other people might be able to say, "Oh, hey, like that gives me ideas," or something like that.
I actually would love to get together a intuitive crafting class
Ooh.
and just have people bring like 5 different things, and then me bring like the glue guns and stuff like that. So if they like blades and crystals and the color green, they
Hmm.
bring those things, and then I bring some of my stuff, and being able to like help them navigate all of that, just so that they have that in their back pocket. um
Huh.
I also have a closet full of things that need to be done and need to have moss put on them, and So honestly, you never know. Like
Mm-hmm.
coming out of my office, there's no telling what's coming next. Every piece is almost every piece is very uh unique
Mm-hmm.
and will only be that one of its kind ever.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no telling.
That's fair. I mean, I guess I kind of would ruin the game of intuitive crafting by saying, "Oh, hey, here's a template to go and explore." But
Yeah.
it sounds like there's really no limit to intuitive crafting, and it also sounds like there's not really a limit to what it can help someone either express or figure out emotions and how to process them.
hmm
Or can you think of one instance where maybe there isn't such a good way of dealing with it through intuitive crafting?
So I get in a place of avoidance sometimes
Mm-hmm.
personally, and I will not want to shower. I will not want to feed myself properly. There could be just like some avoidance with somebody's personal self-care,
Mm-hmm.
and just really wanting to get back to it because it could be a form of like disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
Just working on something repetitively over and over, and that's why I like everything to be different because it's a new, fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah.
Fair enough. Well, let's see. We've gone over intuitive crafting. We've gone over the trauma responses and reprogramming them. We've gone through different forms of art and what it can help us do. So we got meditation as well. I'm trying to think of
hmm
what other bullet points we really hit because,
Oh, something I am working on today
uh huh.
is my sister's birthday. She's turned
Ooh,
14. I'm putting together a crafting kit for her, and I'm going to be putting in all the things that she needs, but glue gun and all, and also some detailed instructions on how to make her little project that I'm going to be putting together for her.
nice.
And so that might be like a future thing that people can buy from me, and I can put in instructions. So I feel like my sister hasn't been able to like express herself properly.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want her to have like a solid foundation of like how things go together.
Mm-hmm.
And and obviously that I love her, and and I want to put this cool fun thing together for her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that'll be super exciting, and I can't wait to see how it turns out with her, and
Mm-hmm.
uh how my directions lead her because everybody interprets things differently.
Mm-hmm. I was
So,
about to say just hand X amount of items and have X amount of expectations of like, oh, they can make this or this or this, and then they make something
mhm.
completely different. That would be really
Yeah.
cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I think maybe in the future I could probably put together a couple of kits and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of have people check some boxes of the things they like. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, I think that would be cool.
Yeah, and I mean, you could also always start like you could get on Riverside or Zoom, and you could sit there and actually
Mhm.
do like do it yourself classes. Just tell people,
Yeah.
and then that way, like if they're on their phone, you can be like, all right, show me what you got. All right, now throw that and that together and see what like. I
hmm
don't know.
Or they would be like, well, actually, I kind of want to do this. And we'd be like, yeah, do it.
Yeah,
Like whatever you want to do. I'm just here for suggestions.
yeah, and I mean, it might be easier to get it started online first, because
hmm
nowadays everyone's so busy doing everything else that it's like, all right, let me
hmm
take another hour out of my day to go try something new. And a lot of people are
Yeah.
apprehensive about it. But I think that would be really cool. It sounds like going to one of those pottery places and you make like your pottery, except this
hmm
time you just go with other mediums and make something
hmm
entirely different. So I think
hmm
that that would be really cool. You should get that class together and let me know, and then we'll spread the word for you.
Cool. Yeah, I was thinking maybe like even doing like where you put the kit together for them and you
Mm-hmm.
just send it and then you get like an hour of my time to like put everything
Oh.
together because it's so quick sometimes. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't need to be like an entire day or week thing. And I feel like you're right. Doing things from the comfort of your home too
Mm-hmm.
is a lot more appealing nowadays.
Yeah, and
So,
also like in comfort of the home means that no one's watching me. I get to create whatever I'm creating without judgment. So,
mhm,
and I feel like that would be pretty freeing and liberating for those that feel repressed. So,
mhm.
uh,
And it would offer like authentic connection of
mm-hmm,
like and a shareable memory, you know?
mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of being that teacher over on that street in that weird like shop next to the
Mhm.
laundromat that smells funny all the time, it's Carly on Zoom.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever you get that stuff going, let us know because everyone could use a little bit more of their own art in life, I think.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and also if you're on a walk by yourself and
mhm.
you make your little thing, you mentioned taking pictures, but also you could just like, I don't know,
Mhm.
like FaceTime or Zoom with your wife and be like, look what I'm doing, and then she could just watch you be a goblin and it be like this nice little bonding experience, you know?
Never
Oh,
thought about
look,
it that way.
look how weird I could be.
I don't need a video of her and show her that. She knows that all too well.
I was just giving an example of like how versatile and everything. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
There's no, like you said, there's no like limitations on it.
No, I really don't think there is, and I think that's a beautiful thing about it too. But we are at the end of this episode. So, do you have any shout outs to your businesses or anything like that?
Um, Eclectic Healing Crafts. Follow us on Facebook. Arcades in Amarillo. Wonderful
Yes.
place to shop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Healing Hands Holistic. Um, let's see, that's where I have my office, and with Justin Westmoreland, a wonderful man who does amazing massage therapy and um, also does Reiki and everything. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. So,
Fair enough. For anyone that is interested, we will have those links on the episode at retrievingsanity.com. So,
yes, and also shout out to Retrieving Sanity. Thank you so much for having me. I always love coming on and talking about mental health and retrieving our sanity.
well, thank you for being on, Carly. It's always a pleasure having you on and seeing those different aspects and viewpoints from a spiritual healer such as yourself. So, um, but I guess we will see you next time, right?
Okay,
All right.
yep, of
Oh,
course.
before we go though, you still remember the suicide awareness is this month. So do you
Yeah,
remember the number for the hotline?
no, I don't.
Ah, 988.
Nice. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Yep, 988. So if you or anyone is suffering from suicidal ideations or anything like that, give the number 988 a call. You'll be connected to a volunteer on a hotline, and they want to make sure that you keep your light in this world. So, and they do love you genuinely because if people can hate for no reason, we can also love for no reason. So,
Yes.
all right, Carly. Well, thank you very much, and we will see each other next time.